Hello and welcome back. Today we're going to be travelling back in time to 1793, the time of the Revolution, to recreate an interview with Charlotte Corday. The interview that we will be recreating occurred in 1793 between Charlotte Corday and Jacques Rene Herbert. My name's Emily Yacy, and I'm going to be playing Charlotte Corday in our recreation of the French Revolution today. And my name's Jacinta Ryan, and today I'm going to be playing the role of Jacques Rene Herbert in our recreation. I will be interviewing Charlotte Corday when she is in prison about to be executed on what she thought of her lifespan. My name is Charlotte Corday. I'm 25 years old and a young Girondin conservative. What was your upbringing like? Your education and family situation? I was born on the 27th of July, 1768. I grew up in a war zone, so I never really got to be a kid. But I went to school and pretended that everything was alright. It was a crazy time, with all the revolutionaries talking about these ideas of equality and getting rid of the estates. I supported the monarchy, as did my father. Things were never really that bad until my mother and sister died. Once we lost them, my father couldn't deal with the grief, so he sent me and my younger sister off to live with our aunt in Caen, Normandy, where I became mixed with the Girondins, who quite frankly were the only party that weren't killing everything they saw. So I joined their movement. Were you always such a violent person? I was never. I prefer to use the word curious or impulsive. I was the only one who had the guts to do what all the Girondins wanted done. Actually, I'd say I'm one of the least violent people involved in this revolution. I'm not running around chopping people's heads off just because they annoyed me, like you are. Why are you here? I killed Jean-Paul Marat. In the Terror, he expressed power and influence through his writing and his newspaper. He was teaching people to kill each other. I killed him because he deserved it. And once I decided to do it, there was no stopping me. We Girondins were a part of the Jacobin movement, but not the Jacobin Club, because Marat was corrupting it. He was the Jacobin publisher. There was word that he'd been ordering executions on hundreds of thousands of Girondins. I hated him, because he didn't want a monarchy. I knew that I could flee somewhere far from Normandy and hide the rest of my life. Or I could do something. So I made up my mind that I would assassinate Jean-Paul Marat. I was absolutely revolted by what happened in the September massacres, and I held him completely responsible. So I left Caen on July 9th, 1793, and travelled to Paris. I wanted to murder him in front of the whole National Convention, but apparently he was bound to stay in his bathtub due to some skin disease. I wanted to murder him in front of the whole National Convention, but apparently he was bound to stay in his bathtub due to some skin disease. And I went to his house, and I found him in his bathtub, and I stabbed him. I stabbed him again. I stabbed him again. I was too scared to process any of it. I killed him because I was scared. I was scared that he would ruin the uprising. And I believed that his death would stop the many killings around the country. I killed one man to save 100,000. When you did it, what impact did you think it would have on the revolution? Back when the revolution started and the Renaissance was in motion, it was all about freedom and art and expression, and I supported it fully. But I personally believe that King Louis should not have been executed. After he was killed, it went wild. Everyone was executing anyone. I believed that what I did would stop the mass killings and terror that have been occurring since the September massacres in 1792. I was inspired by the Girondins, and I believed they would be the party to ultimately save France. When I was living in Caen, I became close friends with many of their leaders. I thought that if I killed him, then he would stop executing my people. Is there anyone that will miss you once you've been executed? Yes, of course. Firstly, I'm sure that my father is missing me. I haven't seen him in, well, a long time. I hope that he's well. I know that wherever my mother and sister are, I'm sure they're missing me too. I guess I may get to see them soon. When I was living in Caen with the Girondins, I became close friends with many of their leaders, particularly with their leader Jacques-Pierre Brissot, who I call Just Pierre. I hope that he's missing me as much as I'm missing him. What do your friends and family think of you now? I am not sure. I mean, I've been locked up here since it happened. I don't even know if the news has made its way back to Normandy yet. But I guess they probably noticed that I left. Perhaps, if you let me speak with them, I might be able to answer your question better. I am afraid I can't do that. Well, I'm sure that they will be proud of me for stepping up to the plate and sacrificing myself for the greater good. What role did you play in the Girondinist society? Would you say that you impacted or influenced others? Once I started listening to their speeches and attending their events, I connected with a lot of the Girondins on a human level. Many of them thought that the revolution was taking a turn for the worst, as did I. I made a lot of friendships in their society, and some horrible things happened to my best of friends. Which is why I hate the Montagnards, led by Maximilien Robespierre. They're the reason this terror took such a radical turn in the first place. The Girondins had a huge influence on me and my perspective of the revolution, which is why I killed Murat, which is why I'm here. Did you have any major role models that led you down this path? When I was among the Girondins, I found myself constantly inspired by their various revolutionaries and leaders. I was particularly inspired by Charles Baruch, who was a refugee among them and told me about the ideals of the Enlightenment. And, of course, I've always been influenced and inspired by my father, regardless to the lack of time that we spent together. Since your trial is approaching, what's it like anticipating your death? Is there anything you wish you had done? I was very much aware that there would be extreme consequences for my crime when I decided to do it. But I did what I had to do despite that. I am not usually one to admit weakness, but with the days I have left becoming less and less, I cannot pretend that I'm not afraid. However painful and scary the anticipation of my own death is, I will die with dignity and respect. I can't say there's anything in particular that I regret doing. However, I had always wanted to be more of a child, to run around in the fields and hide from the monsters in the wine cellars. But I spent most of my childhood looking after my younger sister, so I guess she never really had a childhood either. The Girondins had such a large influence on me, and my death is dedicated to them, and my hopefulness of their eminent success. My name is Charlotte Corday, and I killed one man to save 100,000. Thank you for that, Charlotte.